if I wanted to keep my friends and just be able to keep using the internet, I had to become a catfish. If I didn't, my entire world would crumble. Hello, it's Louie, and I'm back to tell you another story. I'm coming clean as a catfish on Neopets.com. And no, this is not me being overdramatic. This was a full-blown, large-scale operation with like a separate email, separate aim. This is not clickbait. So this was probably the most organized I had ever been as like a preteen. And it was for a very good reason. If I got caught, my life would be obliterated. In order for this all to make sense, let's talk about Neopets, which is a virtual kind of pet game website. As a kid, this was probably my first online experience that I really got into. One time I was at school and we had computer lab time and a friend logged on to the website, started creating an account. I was seeing all these cute pets in these different colors and I was like, oh my goodness, this is adorable. I need to be on here right away. So I went home, I made an account. The funny thing is there was a pet that I had seen while my friend was signing up. I think it was called a Jub Jub and it's like a big puffball. And I wanted to name my account Jub Jub, but I didn't know the name of the creature, so I called it Fuzzy Thing. That was my account. I was on there and immediately had a blast getting pets, naming them, visiting the pound. There were all these different worlds you could visit. You could even make a house. There were also paintbrushes you could use to make your pets different colors. There were pets, so pets for your pets, and even pets for your pets' pets. There were so many layers of things, and honestly, I just loved having a cute little animal, making it different colors, taking care of it. I will say that a lot of this website was game-based, and I'm not really a gamer. So that friend had signed up with not her correct birth date, and she showed me a part of the site that I could not access, which was called the Neoboards. It was basically a forum where you could talk about Neopets. There were a bunch of different sections. I really, really wanted to go on there. My friend was like, just make a new account. Lie about your age. Say you're 13. You'll be good. I was like 10 at the time, I think, but I could not do that because I had these pets that I had cared for and loved, and you could try to do a thing where you put them in the pound and readopted them, but honestly, my pets had the best names. My Jub Jub was called Smiley Cute, I think. There is no better name than that. I would not ever risk giving any of these pets up. I asked my mom to print out the sheet from the website, sign it, and mail it in. I do not know why she did this. She might have thought it was just kind of like a school permission slip type thing. She signed a form that allowed me as a 10-year-old to talk to anyone on the website. And she also did it for my sister, who is 3 years younger than me. So like a 7-year-old. When I got on the Neoboards as a sophisticated 10-year-old, I was having a great time. There were a lot of different sections. For some reason, I spent a lot of time on the help boards. This was when I like full on got into Neopets. Like I was on here all the time. I had my dad's old work computer in my room. This basically became my whole life. And I really enjoyed the boards because I feel like I'm what you might call a highly social introvert in that I really like people and I actually like socialization a lot. But no matter who I'm talking to, it seriously drains me. Sometimes I wish I was a ghost that would just float somewhere and be able to hear people's conversation, but not necessarily be perceived. And if I wanted to, I could make a noise. I could be like, woo. I also like to eat steak. But then the rest of the time, no one would even know I was there. And this is why I loved reading people talking all day. I could comment. I didn't have to. Or I could call my friend and be like, oh my gosh, did you see this post? That's wild. Does anybody else feel like they're a highly social introvert or an antisocial extrovert? Does that exist? Let me know in the comments. Oh, by the way, I want to say that basically 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to me. It would really mean a lot if you click subscribe and notify because otherwise it's really hard to get these alerts from YouTube. Thank you guys so much. Okay, back to the story. One day there was a post about internet literacy. I would say that this was a weird time on the internet before we had autocorrect and everyone was typing in like chat speak, except me and a few other people who felt very smart and sophisticated. And people were talking in this thread about how much they hated chat speak. And I was replying. And the person who had started this thread was a very popular user. Anytime she would make a post, people would respond. People seem to really respect her. Let's call her Rachel. So after we talk in here, she sends me a DM and we start talking about, wow, chat speak is terrible. Wow, what about the English language? We were stupid. But she tells me that she's going to be starting a private literate only guild. There was a whole trend of like being a literate user. It's so stupid on Neopets, and this is what she was going to do. So a guild was like a little club. You could only ever join one at a time. Some of them were private, some of them were public, and they had their own private message board in each of them. And then she says, until then, most of my literate friends hang out in this Restocking chat. So if you guys don't know how Neopets works, there's these little shops. You can buy things from shops. They're way cheaper if you buy them from like the official Neopets shops than if you buy them from another person. And if you buy them at the right time, you can resell them in your shop and make a lot of money. The Neopets economy is wild. So the people who would sit in these restocking chats were basically the rich people. They spoke without chat speak. They seemed to know all these smart techniques. I hung out in there all day. I have no idea how I got money. I think mostly it was like sometimes you get random items and I would sell those, but I would kind of pretend that I was restocking even though I wasn't. One day, Rachel finally makes her guild. I remember the name. It was called Conspiracy Theory. If somehow someone who's in this guild sees this, please let me know. I have some questions for you. Anyway, I get invited to this secret guild with the coolest members of the Restocking chat. We chat all day, and because it's a private board, people are talking about more personal stuff, like what grade they're in, what kind of shows they watch, what kind of music they listen to, and I really felt like this was the first time ever talking to like cool teenagers. I think one of the youngest people was maybe 13. One of the oldest was almost 20. I was like, oh my gosh, they talked about bands like Alice in Chains. I was like, what is Alice in Chains? They talk about home improvement. I thought they just meant like the TLC shows where they would improve people's houses. I was like, yeah, I love home improvement, but honestly, I had no idea what anybody was talking about. There was a way that you could actually see people's ages if you went to your friend list. And I just always hoped that nobody would suspect me of being way younger than the rest of them. At this point, I feel like Katie in Mean Girls, not that anybody in this guild is mean, but that we're kind of revered on Neopets. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like a queen bee. I am on top of the world. This was honestly the coolest thing that had ever happened to me. So that summer, I spent like all day, every day on Neopets. My little sister was getting mad. Okay, so a little bit about my sister. Even to this day, we are not very close. When I was younger, we would try to bond. She is a very competitive person. She really wants to win everything. I don't even like games, so you can imagine pretty much how well all of that went. She could not stand that I was mild Neopets royalty. She wanted to be part of it too. And I would say that in general, she had trouble getting along with people because she had such a competitive and like harsh personality. She's alive, don't worry. So she came up to me, I think she's like 8, and she's like, I need to be part of your guild. I'm like, it's actually not for your age range. It's for people who are 10 and older. She doesn't care. She goes to my mom crying. I try to explain to my mom, no, it's for people 10 and older. Honestly, it's for like teenagers, but my mom does not want to deal with this. And she's like, if you do not invite your sister to this club, I'm going to take away your computer and you won't be able to use any computer in the house. I'm like, okay, don't worry. I will do it soon. And I don't. And my sister gets upset again. And my mom's like, no, seriously, I will take away all the internet access you have. Like, okay, I promise, I'll invite her. Because honestly, without the internet, I feel like I am nothing. I won't have anything to do. My cool popularity will be gone. My friends, honestly, I really got close with a lot of people in here, at least close in my perception. I send an invite. I make a note in the group that this is my little sister. Please be nice to her. And that night, I had a sleepover with my friend, so I couldn't really monitor what was going on. My sister had promised me, and I believed her. The next morning, I come home to see if everything is all right. I open the guild, look at the boards, and they are like cleared. Like it's all deleted. There's a few messages that were like, whoa, what was that? That was wild. I look at a lot of sections now in the guild are locked. Like you used to be able to invite people. There were a few other things you could do. Everything is locked. So I post on the board, which is one of the only things that isn't locked. Like, what happened? People were like, I think you know, but I don't. So I go ask my sister. I'm like, what happened last night? She's like, they kicked me out. I'm like, but no, but like, why? Like, what happened? She won't tell me. So I go back to the guild and I'm like, please tell me what happened. And they're like, well, we just know that we need to keep a tighter lock on this place from now on. And I am so embarrassed. Honestly, people from this point on are kind of talking to me like I'm on thin ice. Rachel even messages me. She's like, hey, you really cannot ever do this again. Like, what did I do though? I don't know what I did. My sister asks me for another invite. I say, I can't give you another invite. First of all, you got blocked. I feel like I'm about to get blocked. What even happened? She just like smirks at me like, well, I'm going to tell mom again. But at this point, there is nothing I can do. I'm like, maybe they'll unlock things in a few weeks. But even then, I feel like they would just kick me out if I invited her back. Not only is my reputation shot, but my ability to use the computer is on thin ice. And I realize I have to figure out a way to get my sister to stop fixating on all of this. Not only that, but I want to know what happened. I realize she's not going to talk to me about it, but maybe she would tell someone else. If she has someone else to talk to, would she get distracted from the fact that she wasn't in this guild? If I wanted to keep my friends and just be able to keep using the internet, I had to become a catfish. If I didn't, my entire world would crumble. I had no choice but to create a fake Neopets account. A whole new identity, name, interests, friends, hobbies. My sister is smart, so I really had to be thorough. The account had to look as real as possible, and I even kept notes in a Word doc. At the time, I was reading a book about this girl called Ava. I was like, oh, that's such a pretty name. Let me name the account like Ava Fairy 321. I made sure that she was a little bit younger than my sister, but still in the same grade. So my sister never felt threatened, but still like she was a peer. For some reason, I made her be from North Carolina. I don't even think I'd ever been to North Carolina. My dad had a friend whose daughter was named Caroline. Somehow that was logic. But it was a smart idea because I realized that the time zone was different, so she would have to go to bed earlier. I made her have a little brother, made her like gymnastics. My sister really liked gymnastics. One key fact was that she loved Hannah Montana, which my sister also loved. We actually had tickets to go to a concert really soon. I opened up all these profiles on Internet Explorer. I would usually use Firefox, but I wanted to be able to quickly change between tabs, never let my sister know that this was me in case she walked in. I spent about a week getting pets, getting items, making a few other friends so I seem like a real person. And then I messaged her out of the blue one day. I say that I really like, I don't know, maybe it was the name or something of her little penguin Neopet. I think they're called a Boris. And she's like, oh yeah, thanks. And I'm like, well, what's your favorite Neopet? And she's like, I don't know, the fox one, probably. I'm like, okay, I need to get her talking. So I ask her, can you help me name my pet? She actually does. So I'm like, okay, cool. I would message her a few times a week. And then eventually we started talking about Hannah Montana. That really let our conversations take off. The problem was I didn't watch Hannah Montana. So I would sit with my door open and listen to my sister blast it in the living room so we could message back and forth like we were watching Hannah Montana in real time. At the beginning, I was really nervous about keeping my story straight, but over time, I realized that my sister never really asked too much about me. She would mostly talk about herself, but not like juicy gossip. Like, I never heard anything about me or my family or even whatever the heck she did in this guild. She'd just be like, yeah, I just won the gymnastics competition. But after a month, my sister stopped asking to be in this guild. What do you know? I couldn't let it go. I had to keep things active. And that also included keeping my account active so she never suspected anything. Like I would try to level up my pet, put them in the battle dome. But it was really hard for me to come up with conversation topics. So I started to kind of steal them from things my sister would say to me, but not in too obvious a way. Like if my sister was like, oh my gosh, I hate my teacher, I'd be like, do you hate your teacher? Because I hate my teacher. And sometimes I would kind of even bring my own life in, like things my sister maybe didn't know about. And I thought maybe this would be some kind of like weird secret bonding experience. I would be like, oh, do you ever feel like your hair looks really bad and people are judging you? And she'd be like, no. She wouldn't really give me any comfort, so I couldn't really have that bonding experience, I guess. I honestly had more trouble keeping up the friendships that weren't with her. I honestly was exhausted running 2 different Neopets accounts. I just kept on doing this. I ended up knowing so much Hannah Montana without ever having seen it. Like, I know the audio, and sometimes I see little clips online, people being like, remember this episode of Hannah Montana? And I'll click it, and I will remember the audio, but not the actual pictures. After almost a year, my sister got tired of Neopets, which was awesome for me until she was like, hey, do you want to get on AOL Instant Messenger? I'm like, oh, gosh. Because that means I would have to be keeping up like very, very active conversations with her. On Neopets, it wasn't like a constant chat. It was like inbox you got with little messages. And I created a whole AIM account. I had my regular AIM, and then I also was able to install something called AIM Lite, and it let me have both on the same computer. So again, I could quickly click away if she showed up. And now that I was on AIM, answering her was like a full-time job. Luckily, I had built in by accident that earlier time zone that as I got older, I was like, I can take advantage of this. I can be, oh, sorry, I know it's only 7 p.m., but I'm going to bed. Bye. A few times I did try to ask her like, oh, have you ever been in a Neopets guild? Thinking of joining one. And she would be like, oh, a few, but none were that cool. And I'd be like, oh, I joined a guild and people are being mean to me. Did that ever happen to you? And she'd be like, no, that never happened to me. And I'm like, what did she do? Honestly, to this day, this is one of the biggest mysteries of my entire life. Little by little, she stopped messaging me, and after probably 2 years of being in touch, she stopped initiating conversations. And by that time, I had kind of moved on from being into Neopets to being into anime. I would still go on to Neopets. I still was in this guild because these were my closest like friend type people were. It was so weird. I remember changing my profile to like a Sailor Moon one and then being like, oh my gosh, is that anime? Okay, weird. Like we weren't all on it Neopets all day. I don't know why anime was so judged. This was one of the most interesting experiences of my life. I'm not really somebody who lies very often. I felt really self-conscious, honestly, like I was doing something terrible. But the fact that my sister didn't give me any dirt at all was interesting. Anything she told me was something I already knew. I do not know if she is just like a person, doesn't tell her secrets or what it is. If any of you are in conspiracy theory, please tell me what happened. I literally am losing my mind. I really need to know what made it so they had to purge all the boards. Like there were conversations in there going back for such a long time. What did she do? In the end, my sister never found out. I kind of just stopped using the Ava Neopets account. And so my official quitting date was never huge. I think honestly until they retired AM Light, and then I was like, okay, we're just not really talking. Have you ever catfished? If so, why did you do it? Did you ever get caught? I would love to hear about this in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please click notify and subscribe because some videos nobody is seeing and it makes me sad because I'm working really hard to get all these out for you. I will see you next time with another story. Bye!